watching HDNet, the first all-high-definition national television network.
The Nevada desert, 100,000 square miles of heat, sand, and danger. No place for casual four-wheeling. This unforgiving terrain is the ultimate off-road racer's challenge. For 3 days, 200 teams will travel 1,000 unpaved miles to vie for the right to call themselves best in the desert. Racers have come to Las Vegas for the Nevada 1000. Casey Folks is the president and organizer of the event.
Well, a lot of excitement. This is a lot of hype. This is a wonderful event. It's a one-of-a-kind event. It's a 3-day staged 1,000 race around the state of Nevada. It's never been done before, and the name of the event is called the Nevada 1000. We have almost 200 participants here for the event, and we're excited. These guys are going to get to see some awesome country, and it'll be a thrill and an adventure like no other one around.
And it's that adventure that lures racers to the desert and keeps them coming back. Marty Fiolka has been challenging the desert for more than 15 years.
I've been in off-road racing ever since I can remember. You know, my father was a guy who loved working in the garage, and we had a Volkswagen-powered dune buggy when I was 9 years old. It was something I always wanted to do. I don't know why. I think it was just a romance of the wide open spaces and the dirt road that leads you from here to you don't know where.
The sport has its beginnings in an unusual place, Mexico.
There were guys that used to take motorcycles and then dune buggies and race or go from Tijuana to La Paz and Baja, and they'd punch in and out a little time card that was at the telegraph office, and they would try to break their own records. Well, that evolved in 1967 to the very first Baja 1000, and that was the very first off-road race, and essentially the big off-road race in history, and from that, the sport's been around for 35 years.
But like all auto sports, off-road racing has grown into a technically sophisticated and expensive sport.
The sport used to be a poor man's sport. The sport used to be about the blue-collar guy going in his backyard and assembling at first a Myers-Manx dune buggy, or then a tube frame simple buggy based on Volkswagen components, going in the desert and racing with his buddies. And as any motorsports evolved, so did off-road racing, to where now the people who compete at the top echelons of the sport are people that seemingly come from a very different background. They aren't the kind of typical Indianapolis Formula One kind of well-dressed zoot suit kind of people. In fact, they're the opposite. They're the people who've made their money in construction, who have made their money in plumbing. They have money, you just don't know it, but then when they show up with their $175,000 race cars, it's apparent that their passion is where they put their money in, and it doesn't really matter that other people see it.
Spending a lot can increase the odds, but this is Nevada, and here, there is no sure thing.
It's man against machine and nature. You can spend, as an example, the Herbst vehicle is probably about $1 million truck. There's no guarantee it's going to make it. And they've got to compete against a vehicle that's a $100,000 vehicle, and he might make it and they might not. So it's a lot of strategy is involved in this, preparation, and consistency. You have to drive or ride very, very smooth.
These machines are built for one purpose, to race in the desert. And the race teams show up with all manner of vehicles they and their technical sponsors think might work. Groff Motorsports is one of the newest competitors in off-road racing. Former Indianapolis 500 driver Robbie Groff will be sharing the driving duties with Marty Fiolka. This is his first season trying his hand at off-road racing.
I realized what I liked about motor racing mainly was just the competition. When I get into a race car, I'm a fierce competitor, and I still wanted to do that, but I didn't want to do it at the level I was doing it at anymore. And doing what we're doing now allows me to have the time to pursue my career in business and also still satiate my appetite for competition, which is great. I've realized it's after all these years, it still burns pretty strong. I lost my passion and burn for the type of racing I was doing before, but when I found that I had this bug for off-road racing, it's given me another outlet to drive like I like to drive. But I love it. I love driving the cars, and I love racing the desert. I mean, that's one of the biggest competitors I've ever had to deal with my whole life, and we're gonna beat the desert.
Their car is a one-of-a-kind design, based on a Jimco chassis and a race-tuned Toyota engine.
This is our 2002 BF Goodrich Jimco. As you can see, it's an unbelievable piece of workmanship in both engineering and technology. This is one of the fastest cars in the desert, and we are so proud of this car. It's only a couple races old, and we're really, really proud of what we've achieved with this. Thanks to all our sponsors.
This is the third desert race the Groff team will compete in. To date, the car's overall design has earned high marks, but its engine has been the real star.
This is our Toyota Camry V6 engine prepared by Fat Performance. It's a 3.2-liter motor that's based on the Camry V6 you find in your production car. A lot of changes, obviously, to make it race ready. About 340 horsepower in this trim. And you can
the 340 horsepower is enough to push the car across the desert at more than 120 miles an hour.
But the engine and assembly itself has been perfectly reliable all year. The Motec injection perfect, and we're really happy to be representing Toyota and BF Goodrich in this car, and that's basically what we've got.
But a high-tech engine doesn't go 50 miles in a desert race without bulletproof tires.
What I'm telling you is we're there to service you, but get us your stuff as soon as possible.
Frank D'Angelo leads the Motorsports Development Group for BF Goodrich.
This course is going to be tough and rocky. Grip is going to be important. We don't want them sliding off the course and hitting rocks if they can help it at all. The reason that we go to a 4-ply here and an extra ply all the way around is so that the guys don't get a puncture or don't get a flat, especially in a race like this. Now, that's not to say it's not going to happen, because a guy can go off the course and, tear off a tire, wheel, A-arm, what have you. But by having a really, really tough tire where the guys can run a little bit harder and not worry about a flat tire, what that allows them to do is, as they're running down the course, if there's someone in front of them that does get a flat because they're running on someone else's tire, these guys are going to get by them. By racing on product and then taking the product back and finding out how it's lived and how it's survived, it helps us speed up the process of building a better tire for the consumer that comes into our tire store and buys a tire.
But 1,000 off-road miles have a way of dealing even the best equipped team a bad hand.
My goal is to see how many folks can get there at the finish line, and I wished everybody could make it because they all participate. They come from a long ways, they spend a lot of money, but unfortunately they won't all make it.
Despite all the high-priced equipment on display before the race, the 1,000 is also a race of strategy. The Groff team meets into the night to finalize their plan.
Does anybody have, or anybody not have, one of the full-size maps here?
The rules are simple. Most importantly, the drivers are on their own between pit stops. The pit team cannot go onto the course to help the drivers in any way, or the car is out of the race. But drivers can and do help other drivers, because everyone ends up in trouble sometime during the race.
That concludes all the questions, and let's just wrap it up. Let's get a good night's sleep. 5:45 in the morning in the parking lot at the La Quinta. We're taking off to the start line.
Good, we're good.
Let's have a safe race.
Sweet dreams.
The course starts 60 miles north of Las Vegas. From there, the racers will wind their way through the barren Nevada backcountry before returning to Las Vegas 3 days later. Today, they'll drive to Ely, over 296 miles of mountain terrain, deep sand washes, and dry lake beds. The race cars will go off the line by class. The Groff car is in the unlimited class and has had early luck, drawing the right to start first in their group. Robbie will take the wheel for the first half of the day.
Just trying to be in a focused mood right now. If anything, I know what I need to do today. And that's to be smart, keep it on the road, be patient, but at the same time, I can't take it too easy. So I'm just trying to stay within myself mentally right now is what I'm trying to do.
The unlimited class is one of the most hotly contested classes. Riding alongside Robbie will be a co-driver whose job is to navigate and keep radio contact with the pit crew. Sue Mead will be riding for the first 200 miles today. Sue has been in numerous races, including the infamous Paris-Dakar Rally. The first class to go off the line is the trophy class trucks. These trucks have a top speed in excess of 150 miles per hour and cost nearly $1 million. This is only the second desert race for Robbie, and despite driving in the Indianapolis 500, he's nervous.
As soon as my nerves calm down, which will hopefully be soon, and I think it will, because you got 22 other guys in my class that are behind us, and that's a huge advantage. Even though I'll be in the dust behind the trophy trucks, since we're the second class to start off the line, but it's a big advantage. When you get off the line, just make sure you don't drag the clutch too much and you don't drop it, so you don't want to stall in front of everybody. That's for sure. But then you're on your way to 1,000 miles, which is pretty much unfathomable at this point. You know, right now it seems like, oh, we got today, but there's a lot of racing ahead of us, a lot of racing.
As expected, the powerful trophy trucks muscle their way over the terrain and remain out in front early in the race. First 50 miles, Robbie easily holds first in his class. Then, Sue radios in their first brush with the desert. They lost control at 80 miles per hour and landed on a large rock. But the car and the driving team seem okay. Tebby, crew manager, radios the car to make a pit stop so the crew can fuel it and check for problems. Robbie is late coming into the pits. Sue reports in that they had to change a flat tire, are back on the course, but they lost the lead. crew notices fluid dripping from the gearbox. At first, it looks harmless.
Looks all right.
But at the last moment, Don takes a second look and decides to top off the gearbox. That's when they discover it's much more serious than they first thought.
The transmission case on the bottom probably hit a rock from underneath. Cracked the case and we're losing oil. Not really fast, but if that crack opens up anymore, we'll probably be in trouble because it'll probably lose oil faster than we can keep it in between pits.
The next pit stop is 30 miles away. The crew will race ahead, set up, and hope for the best. The crew is set up and ready at the next pit. And once again, the car is late.
Oh, I'm making a seat for you.
Groff race, Robbie, copy chase 1. Robbie, copy chase 1.
An hour goes by with no radio contact.
Groff race, do you copy chase 1? Robbie or Sue, do you copy Don?
There is no response from the car, and the crew drives to higher ground to try again. In the end, they make contact with a satellite phone in the race car.
Here's what we know so far. Robbie called on the sat phone. I guess he got a little hot into a turn, missed the turn, backed up, was getting back on the course. Another single-seater unlimited car came along and collided with them, and they're stuck together right now. The best I can understand, it sounds like the guy's left front is tangled up with our right rear, and they can't get the two cars apart.
If the crew goes to the car to help, they will be disqualified. All they can do is give advice.
That sounds good. I don't know what else to tell you. You can try the jack and see if you can, use leverage between the two cars and push each other apart, or I don't know, taking the tire and wheel off. You'll just have to get creative and be a MacGyver and see if you can get yourself untangled. Sandy, was it pretty clear? Did it sound like Robbie?
It didn't sound like Robbie, but it was the other guy. He says, we're tangled up with another car, but we're just free. I'm moving now.
Ground base, this is Chase 2. Do you got a copy?
After 2 hours, Robbie and Sue have untangled the cars and are underway again. The lead is history, but they are still in the race.
We had a buggy get alongside of us. We went past the buggy and he pulled over, and then he didn't stay over and he locked wheels with us. So we hooked up and we were stuck for a really long time. We finally tied a tow rope onto the front. We had a bunch of people go by us that couldn't stop or wouldn't stop. We finally had somebody who stopped and pulled us out, and then we pulled out the guy that was stuck alongside of us. We were there for a long time. The car is holding up really well, and Robbie's driving has been great. We've had a few really long open stretches, and he's been able to open up the throttle and really drive it well. So we've really had some fun times as well.
Really interesting because when I used to, in everything else I did before, I always relied on everyone else to do everything. I never had to get out of the car and change a tire or change a belt or whatever. I mean, you have to do everything, and that's very, very interesting too. Sometimes I think I should have myself, my head checked for, for wanting to do that, because I'm not much of a mechanic to begin with, but I know that with the radio there, they can communicate and they can talk to you, but it is a very, makes things very interesting. There's no other racing like that in the world, where you're your own mechanic, and physically it's difficult to have to mess with all those things, but it's rewarding when you pull it off.
Marty Fiolka and his co-driver wait for Robbie to pit. Robbie and Sue are exhausted, more from the tire changes and unhooking themselves from the crash than from the drive itself. The transmission is still leaking. Marty now has to nurse the car over the final 100 miles to finish day one. It's been a rough day.
What happened was we were going down a straightaway, and the marking of the course was a little confusing, and we missed the corner. Like the last minute, we're like, oh, that's it. Then we missed it, so we had to stop. We had to back up. So in the meantime, this guy's trucking down the road, getting up to us, and no one likes to be in anyone's dust. So we made the left-hand turn, and all of a sudden, I just feel this like that. I'm like, oh, what the hell is that? And he tried to come on a hill on the outside and try to pass me, and he didn't do it. Because I didn't know he was there. I started taking off, and I hooked his wheel, and we just got stuck, and then we're like, just stopped, and finally someone towed us out.
Wow. But you and Sue did an awesome job, especially being out in that silt. I know what that stuff's like to be in.
She's got a lot of resolve, man. More than I got.
I did not want to stay out there, and I didn't want to walk back in.
You tell me.
Inherently, maybe the romance of what we do is based on the fact that maybe 150,000 people at the race or 1.2 million people on television don't see it. Maybe what we do is important to us because nobody sees it except for ourselves. The glory lies within us, and maybe that's a better glory than there is you can find at any other racetrack around the world. And the privilege of being able to do what we do, to take these cars and go across uncharted desert in the middle of the United States, it's still maybe the last bastion of freedom that's inherent in motorsports or sports at all.
Marty makes it to the finish of day one, 2 hours out of the lead.
Going into any race, especially a 3-day race, we had never done anything like that. So it's kind of hard to gauge how things are going to go. Day one was a little tough for us. We got off to a bit of a rocky start. And, you know, again, it's a learning curve for all of us as a team. It's a tough course. And Robbie had a bit of a tough go of it, but he got through it great. You know, I was able to get into the car, have a fairly clean run to the finish, and still felt pretty good about our next 2 days. And the neat part about it is that, yeah, we had a tough day, but guess what, guys? We have 2 more days to go, which is not anything like I've ever experienced before. This kind of gives you a chance to regroup. The team regroups, the car gets worked on, and you have a chance to kind of start fresh the next day, and it's a pretty neat deal.
Race rules say that the crew has just 70 minutes to repair and prep the car for tomorrow's start.
Okay, nothing's broken loose. It's leaking also from the case to the adapter that mounts the gear on this side.
Their main concern is with the gearbox. If they replace it, they'll go over the time limit and incur a heavy time penalty. So they try patching it with epoxy and cross their fingers.
Lenny,
Yes.
you want to go ahead and put the hose for the pump pickup back on the side of the trans? I think it's drained about all it's going to out of the dim.
It's the start of day 2. Despite gobs of epoxy, the gearbox is still leaking. The cars start in the order they finished. Marty will start in 27th place and drive the first 200 miles. The course will take them from Ely to Tonopah, another 292 miles of extreme desert terrain.
Day 2, I think Robbie and I both woke up with a sense of resolve that we have to put day 1 behind us, and that we as a team, for the first time this season, needed to have a very clean day. And that's something that you build on. When you can go through a day, not have any downtime, not have any flats, and just run the car, then you can look at building and running towards the front.
He'll be going off the line.
Seems to be in the groove. The car and tires are performing well, but he's having a hard time gaining ground.
at the back part of it, and then you're going to move to the front of it, and we're going to do the transmission.
150 miles into day 2, Marty pits for more gearbox oil and fuel.
You got a copy? Go ahead.
This time, the gearbox is completely dry. They just made it in. It will be more than 150 miles before they have another chance to fix the problem. At the next pit, they throw yet more gear oil into the car, and Robbie takes over. The leaders finished day 2. The Groff team started in 27th. They finish in 28th.
28th place, well, not good, but hopefully we have another trouble-free day tomorrow like we did today, and hopefully we can get top 10 in class, which is good considering the day we had yesterday. We had a tough day, as everyone knows. So it's good. We got to finish. That's the main thing. And if we finish top 10, that'd be great.
Where do you got to go? Right underneath the engine?
Yes. Watch yourself, Zach. Hold on a second.
In the pits, the crew has another 70 minutes to epoxy the cracked gearbox, which has opened up even more.
Cylinder run and we check the water level, right?
Yeah, it has to be engine oil when it's flat.
The good news on the day was that they were still in the race, and they didn't even have one flat in 300 miles.
In modern, today, off-road racing, especially in Class 1, the cars are built so well that the old days of counting on 50 to 60% of your competitors falling out are over. In the second day in the Nevada 1000, Robbie and I had a resolve. We looked at each other and said, we've got to get through this day clean, and we did. And it was perhaps the best day of the year for Groff Motorsports in terms of what we did on the track. We just ran.
31 minutes.
Day 3. The racers are greeted with bacon and eggs and bologna sandwiches.
Where are we going today? All right. Starting in Tonopah. You know, we finished on the north side of 6 here. Jumped across the highway and came into Tonopah. We're going to head out a little bit of the same way.
Today's final leg will be from Tonopah back to Vegas, 289 miles of the race's toughest terrain. Robbie Groff will drive the first leg. Once again, the patch transmission is still leaking.
Game plan is to stay within ourselves and be smart, go fast when we can, go slow when we need to, and finish this son of a gun.
To finish in the top 10 in their class, Robbie will need to make up 5 places. an almost impossible feat in the desert. The former IndyCar driver will have to push hard.
It's a big challenge, bigger challenge than I ever had to deal with when I used to race Indy cars and Formula cars, because you gotta contend with the dust, and you can't. It's really hard to get close on someone. You gotta really be really patient, and that's the hardest thing to do when you're passing. That's the hardest thing to do when you're passing, is to be patient. So, you know, I've just gotta suck it up and wait for when you can get a little clear run to the dust, and then go for it.
Robbie is making up for lost time. They just radioed in that they are hitting 80 miles per hour on the open stretches. A few miles later, they report mechanical difficulties. 700 desert miles are beginning to take their toll. With the power steering not working, the car is almost impossible to control. They're soon off the course and stuck with a punctured tire. Minutes later, tire changed. The team is back on the course, driving hard, battling yet another problem. Robbie radios in that the throttle is now stuck wide open. The power steering is still out, and the car wants to go top speed. If they get there, the crew will try to fix it at the next pit. At this stage in the race, the Groff team isn't the only one pushing the limit. A driver ahead of Robbie enters the pits too fast and rolls his truck. With the engine revving out of control, the crew replaces a throttle spring as well as a broken power steering belt. The car is still in the race. Soon after leaving the pit, Robbie calls in that they are hitting a top speed of around 120 miles per hour. He's hours behind, but he's on the edge.
It's interesting that desert racing and off-road racing, it basically demands a respect for the terrain, but you're trying to beat it at the same time. It's like a surfer trying to beat a 40-foot wave in the ocean. He may make it, he may not, but there's always a level of respect for Mother Nature. And in this case, you know, you're doing what you need to try to beat it, but you always have a level of respect. As soon as the minute you think you got it figured out, nature's going to bite you right in the butt, and you're going to be upside down or off the course or whatever, and it's going to tell you who's boss.
850 miles into the race, co-driver Sue Mead radios in that Robbie has rolled the car twice. They are well off the course, upside down in a ditch.
Okay, Sue, Robbie, I need a report. Are you guys okay? You guys still feeling
okay? Yeah, 10-4, I want to know that you guys are okay. If you're not okay, we're coming in. I want to know that you guys are okay. Sue, you copy, Don? Sue? Sue or Robbie, you copy, Don? Sir, I want to talk to both of you, please. Sue? You hear me? 10-4, Sue, I got you.
I think we're both fine. No, I know we're fine. We're fine. We're just a little prone, but we're fine. We're gonna get...
She's way out of breath, and I want to talk to Robbie. Yeah, 10-4.
Yeah, Crop Chase, this is race car. We're fine. The car is on its side. We got in some dust on a fast road. Lost your way. Got in a little bit of a ravine. Turned it over. The car is fine.
Okay, Robbie, I understand. I want to make sure that you're okay. You sound fine. I want you to give me a condition report on Sue. How is Sue?
We are physically 100% absolutely fine. Do not worry about us. We're physically good. The car is fine. We just turned it over. It's on the side. We're going to try to get it right side up. 10-4.
Okay, 10-4.
Racing off-road is like a controlled crash. You're trying to take the car to the edge of tire adhesion and stay in control all the time. Now, to spice things up even more, you're out in the off-road racing, you're out in the desert, you're driving over rocks, you're driving over just gravel, you're driving through silt, and you have to stay, it's really difficult to stay in control and keep the car neat and tidy and keep it on the road, and that's a very difficult thing to master.
Robbie and Sue flag down 2 other teams who stop and roll them over and pull them out. They are able to restart the car and head for the next pit.
Open her up. Take a look at what they do with the cat. Is that water? Back, let's see if we can straighten the gas. Robbie, want water? Okay. Oh.
Despite the accident, the car is in remarkable shape. Marty jumps in and will now try to make it to the finish. Robbie and Sue are not hurt.
Just a little bit of driver error in the dust. We were going down a pretty fast graded road, and I was behind a truck, got in the dust, and when the dust cleared, I was off on driver's left, got into a little bit of a ravine off the road, and just enough to turn the car on its side and then on its top, and that's where it stayed until fortunately we had a couple of competitors pull us over and out.
Well, don't kick yourself too hard, bud.
All right.
There's a lot of us standing here that couldn't even do that good of a job. We couldn't make it that far, so.
All right. I mean, the car. I think between the course being kind of virgin territory, and you know, by now you got 750 miles on the shocks. The car's just. But you know, it's not that. It's not too bad. You know, I did. Even after the conversation we had this morning, I still couldn't really keep it together like I wanted to, you know. And after we did the throttles, after the tire change and everything, that kind of brought it together a little better, you know. But it just you want to, you know, it's hard to hold back the reins, you know. I gotta say. So I tried, but I wasn't so good at it.
Well, I think you did a good job today.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you can be your hardest critic, but I think you did a good job.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I mean, one flat.
Funny, maybe call it oblivion, but I've never really looked at it as this is just so dangerous and I should not be doing it. I just have done it so long. It's just like it's second nature to me, and I just do it because it's what I do, and it's what I enjoy, and I do it well, and I couldn't think of anything else I'd rather be doing.
The last 15 miles of the race were really, really emotional filled for me. I was driving the car. You know, Robbie and I had gotten through a lot together in the past 3 days, as had Don Tebby and Barry and all the guys, and I had seen how hard they had worked, and we just didn't want to make any mistakes at that point. And there's something about finishing a long race that's so different from finishing a short race, especially 3 days of a long race, and knowing that your family was just over that rise in the finish, and knowing that you could finally shut the car off, and knowing that you had done what you'd set out to do, which is finish a very difficult event. You know, it's very difficult for people to understand that 1,000 miles in the desert is an incredibly difficult thing to do, is incredibly long and grueling, and to be able to know you'd finished every mile, that you hadn't towed the car in even though you could have, to know that the guys didn't give up, and to know that everybody around you knew that you had in fact joined that elite group of people who had finished the race, was a great feeling for me, for sure. I mean, we knew we could have done better, we know we were going to do better, but for us to finish the Nevada 1000, our longest race to date, and do it in such a professional, clean, hard-working manner, and to do it in a way that it was still with style and fun for the guys who were there and our families, that was a great feeling for me.
They may not have been best in the desert this year, but they were one of the lucky ones. They finished.
It was a big deal to finish today. It's a big accomplishment to finish 1,000 miles in the desert. You know, but that's a long way, and not even on a road. You're not even on a paved road. So if you can get the point across that it's how difficult what we're doing is, and to finish that, and in knowing that we finished that is being so difficult is just amazing, and I'm very, very satisfied with finishing, but I'm very unsatisfied with not finishing better, and I will just do whatever I can do in my power to make sure we finish better next time.
Out of 200 teams, Groff Motorsports came in 37 overall and 14th in class.
Well, I'm so pumped. I'm going to crash in a while, I'm sure, but it was great. It was a lot of good driving.
You know, like, and I took just one chance too many in the dust, you know?
Another route to get PLSX.
That's right.